Welcome. This is the first video of now my series dedicated to tasks relegated to labs for passing the Security Plus exam. Now, what we understand is the Security Plus, it's an intermediate level kind of certificate, right? Usually you don't necessarily need experience if you have a little bit of computer experience, but it is definitely a lot of learning material that you can build on as far as the fundamentals of learning about cybersecurity, right? So this is just going to focus on this series is going to focus on the practical aspects of getting through cybersecurity. We're going to learn a little bit about firewall rules, management, evasion, network vulnerabilities, application data, password cracking, data encryption, and a few other things as well. So just to get started, what we're first going to go over is the Firewall Rule Based Management. And so what we're going to do is let's understand what a firewall does, right? First and foremost, it protects your computer from unauthorized access by users, applications outside of your corporate network. And to make the firewall effective, we need to edit and define these rules. So these rules, they analyze packets coming to the computer or network, and compare whether the specified conditions are satisfied, and then allow or deny access to the computer or network accordingly. So the firewall application just enables us to configure and edit these rules, right? So first, what we're going to do is verify the enabled network connection. Now, usually two computers are connected to each other on a network, and they have a live connection when they can communicate with each other over that connection. Now, we can verify a live connection by pinging one computer from the other one. And what we're going to do now is do just that. So to verify that it's live, we're going to start with the server for DC01. Then I'm just going to right click start here, right? And then perfect, and then we're going to ping the other server. There we go. All right, so now we notice that the command pings the domain name of the practice lab Windows 10, and it also displays the IP address for the 192.168.0.4, right? And now that we see that it can ping, that they can connect to each other or communicate either to each other, just going to exit out of that. And now it allows us to jump into our next exercise, which is creating a Windows Firewall rule. And so it's just defining the inbound and outbound traffic to or from a specified software or computer to be fully, partially, completely blocked or allowed. We can also specify whether the rules apply to your local area network, your wireless area network, remotely, remote access, rather, all of these modes, the operation of the computer, right? So just going to head on over to this server that we have here. And I'm just going to create a rule that will block incoming pings here, ping packets. All right, let's see. Actually, let's go to control panel. Should have a load. All right, perfect. So it's going to head over to the Windows Firewall here. Perfect. All right, so now that we notice that the Windows Firewall state is off, right, for domain networks for that profile. So I'm just going to click on allow an app or feature, right? And then I'm going to click on change settings here. I'm going to head to file and print sharing. And make sure all of these boxes are unchecked for domain public and private. Then we'll notice a difference in a moment. Just a few more things. So now that we're back on the Windows Firewall window, let's see, we're gonna click back here, and then should be able to turn this on here. I'm gonna ignore the other two, and now we see that green check marks here for the domain networks. And now we're just going to test the firewall rule that we've set here. So after defining the rule, you want to test its effectiveness to ensure that the security of the computer is in place. And I'm just going to test now whether the ping request to the practice lab Windows 10 that we're currently on are blocked as specified by the rule we just created. And to do that, I'm going to switch over back to this computer, and just going to do the command prompt here and do the same command from before. Okay. And it should time out because the firewall rule that we created blocks any ping packets going into the Windows 10 here. All right. And so now what I'm going to do is just reconfigure the firewall rules. You can easily edit the rule once it's configured. We can access the firewall settings as we just done to create a rule and specify the new rules. So now we're just going to reconfigure the rule to allow incoming packets to Windows 10. So just going to switch back here, then back here, right? And then we're going to switch this back on. Perfect. Then just going to hit allow. It's going to close all these windows here. Okay, perfect. So now just going to go back here. Then, perfect. Now it should be able, there it is. All right, perfect. So now we're receiving the responses back from the practice lab, from the other practice lab, and this verifies that the reconfigure firewall rule to allow the file of print access to ping service is effective. So I'm just going to close this out, and then we're going to head into our next task, which is going to be configuring firewall rules with Windows Firewall with advanced security. So first, we're just going to verify the connection. As I mentioned before, just the connection as far as two computers on the network that's live, being able to exchange data, like sending ping packets with each other over the connection. So just gonna connect here, network and sharing center to Windows Firewall here. And now we'll notice that the firewall is now activated for all three network profiles: domain, home, or private rather, domain, private, or public, right? So I'm just going to leave this open while I head over to Windows 10, and then let's see. All right, then we're going to run this administrator. Perfecto, yes. Now we're going to ping plab DC1. Right now, we see that the other server DC01 is responding to the ping request from our current server that we have here, right? So now what we're going to do is create a firewall rule using Windows firewalls with advanced security. Now we can create the firewall rules using the advanced security feature, and we're going to create the simple rule just to block the ping response from DC01, right? So I'm going to connect back to DC01, and then I'm going to head over to advanced settings here. Right now, the inbound rules, let's see, should be here. Perfect. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down to the file and print sharing, which is pretty much what we did before with the regular firewall here. And then just going to go to properties here. And then on the general tab, just going to make sure we're there. And then we're going to do block the connection. And then we'll see that it changed from a green check mark to a looks like a error or stop or whatever you want to call it. And also the action shows us that it's blocked from us applying that firewall rule, right? So now I'm just going to just leave this window open, and I'm just going to test the firewall rules out that I just created. So creating any rules, right, using any Windows OS or app rather, they're equally effective. Now, for what I'm doing now, I'm just testing the effectiveness of the rule that I created with this advanced security feature. That's all. So I'm going to switch back over to Windows 10. Then I'm going to ping it again. Again, this is just to test the rule that I've put in place here, and it should time out on us. All right, now we can conclude that the firewall rule we've just done is effective. And of course, they can be easily reconfigured. Just helps reconfigure the computer in accordance with the, what's sort of evolving IT environment, right? So just going to reconfigure it back, which now that we've seen that a rule actually works, just going to go back here, back to properties. There it is. All right, perfect. So allow. I should go back to what it looks like before. Perfect. Allow here, and doesn't show, but it should eventually show the green check mark again. All right, so now I'm just going to close all of these, and then I'm just going to test it out back again on the other server here. And it should give us the IP, and there it is. All right, there we got some communication going there. Perfect. All right. So now we're able to move on to our next exercise, which is now configuring firewall rules using remote desktop. Now, just to touch a little bit on remote desktop. It's a built-in feature of the Windows OS, and it enables us to set up a connection with any remote computing device on your network, such that you can access the desktop of the computer, operates as resources as if they were as if the physical device is right in front of you. Similar to a VPN connection, a remote desktop connection actually gives you more control of the resources of the remote device. If you work for a particular enterprise or business and you had to call IT for some reason, some of us, we probably had this done for us, once or twice, or even more than that, depending on how long you've been in that particular environment. Whether the IT guy, they would remote in, hey, let me get access to your computer. Some IT professionals just need that feel so they can kind of see what's going on. Especially if it's a bit harder to use your words for some people to describe exactly the problem with the technology issue. But nonetheless, let's move forward with the remote session here. So we're going to set up a remote desktop section to connect to and operate the computer on the network, but present at a geographically remote location. So we're going to use the session to create firewall rules, but we're just going to do it using a remote session, right? So we're just going to connect to the Windows 10 lab, which we already have here. So just going to start and remote. All right, perfect. And then we're going to run as administrator here. Yes, of course. Now for the computer name, it's going to be the practice lab DC01, of course. Actually, I don't want to abbreviate it. It's a bit shorter. There it is. Okay, perfect. So now we are in, and it shows us with this dialog box here, task. Don't know really what to call it, but it shows here at the top what server we're actually using to kind of let us give us an indicator that we're currently on that physical device, right? So now that the connection is established, we're just going to get into creating the firewall rule, right? So just going to follow the same steps. Just going to head here. I like to go through the control panel. I mean, there's different ways to do it, but see here. Then here, firewall. All right, perfect. And then settings, rules, and same concept. The only difference is we're just doing it remotely through properties here. I'm going to block the connection. Apply. Again, literally the exact same thing that we're doing now. And then just going to exit out, and then just going to disconnect the remote session. I'll leave all the windows open here. And then we're going to test it out on Windows to make sure everything is working properly as far as the rule that I've just created. And it should time us out again since I blocked the connection as far as verifying the firewall rule we've just created. So now I'm just going to reconfigure the firewall rule again using the remote desktop, and we're just going to put everything back to how it was, literally. Let's see, remote here. Yes. Okay. Yep. Same thing. Same ordeal. Same ordeal. And since it's already open, then it's going to go back here. Properties. Wow. Apply. Okay. Then we're going to exit back out. Just test it again. Get here. We're going to ping it to make sure it's working properly. Perfect. Yep. And everything is back to how it was before. So perfect. And we've done that all. Now we've done it the actual physical way as if we were in front of the physical device. And now we've just completed the same idea, configuring and reconfiguring firewall rules remotely if we didn't have physical access to the computer, right? So now we're just going to configure the firewall rules using the CLI, right? So it's one of the methods of communicating with the OS or the software like applications, and we issue commands or receive responses, of course, in the form of text lines that you see here, right? And they delineate from each other by command prompts. So CLI commands are usually very powerful and can achieve more with each command because they communicate with the software directly. And on the other hand, the CLI commands, they are not intuitive, unfortunately. So we must remember them, the commands, the syntax, and the context to use them correctly, right? So what we're going to do now is just verify blocked ping packets so we can actually use the CLI commands to configure firewall on the computer. We're going to test the effectiveness again, just using a different method, right? So for this, I'm just going to go to this current practice lab here, right? Should connect here in a second. All right, perfect. Then just going to open this up here. Perfect. Okay, there it is. Let me top here. All right, perfect. So now on this window, we can confirm. Actually, let me go back here. We can confirm that all three profiles, right, are active for as far as the Windows Firewall. Right, they're all active. The green check mark. Some are connected, some are not connected, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is, as done in the earlier exercise, we're just going to access the file and printer sharing dialog box, right? So we're just going to head here, right, and then just going to actually, let me see here. Want the connection. Again, same thing, same thing. Now, after we've done that, we're going to go back here and then just going to ping it. And of course, the request is going to time out. This confirms that the incoming packets are blocked, right? Let's see. Back here. Okay. So it should be blocked here. Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, so this confirms that, I was just double checking, but this confirms that the incoming packets are now blocked. Now we're going to configure the firewall using the CLI commands. So I'm going to use the CLI commands to configure the firewall on the DCL1 server. And I'm also going to use the CLI commands to switch off the firewall profile on the DC computer. All right, so I'm going to connect back here. And then I'm going to, let's see here, command prompt. No. is. There it is. Perfect. So now I'm just going to run this command. All right, perfect. So I noticed that we received a OK response from the computer, which informs that the firewall is now switched off for all the network profiles on this particular server on DC01, right? So I'm just going to minimize that particular window. So now I'm just going to verify the efficacy of the firewall rule that I just put in place. So after defining it, using that command, just going to verify the commands, modify the firewall as specified, and I'm going to test whether the firewall on the DC01 computer is switched off as specified by the command that I've inputted, right? So just going to right click on here again. So let me close this out. All right, perfect. And then back down here. Perfect, perfect. So now we see all the red here. It's an easy way to remember it. The firewall is switched off for all the profiles, the domain, the private, the guest, everything is switched off. So now that I've confirmed, I'm going to switch back to the Windows 10, right? Then I'm going to ping the device, the DC01, and it should give us a timeout. Now, we notice that the ping command, of course, received a response that is blocked, right? So this is because the CLI command switched off the firewall for all the profiles, and the firewall rules configured are no longer effective, right? So I'm just going to reconfigure the firewall again using the CLI, the command line interface, to reconfigure the rules, and just going to switch them on, right? So I'm going to head back here, and you're going to see just that. It's going to be pretty literally almost the same. Just instead of off, it's going to be on. It is. Okay, perfect, perfect. Now I'm going to close out this window. Everything should be back up and running. And now we see the green, right? So access to the firewall window shows us that for all profiles, the domain, private, and guest are all back on. And then also I'm going to access the advanced security window to confirm the inbound packets to the file sharing are still blocked as well. So let's see. Yep, it's still off. Still off. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna check here too. Yep, still off, still blocked here. All right, perfect. So I'm just gonna connect back to Windows here. Yep. All right, perfect. So now we notice that the request is still timing out because the firewall is now switched on using the CLI command, and the firewall rules configured for individual services are just not effective at the moment because of how everything is configured. But nonetheless, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. So we've configured firewall rules using Windows Firewall, using Firewall with Advanced Security, using remote access, and also the CLI. And I'll see you guys again, or see you again in the next video for this series.